Let's do it now.
Turn up the volume nice and loud. Cause we are controlling transmission with dance beats and R&B. You're in the mix with Lil Drummer Girl. With your host, Dawn Marie. In the mix.
Hey, it's Dawn Marie Mutel here. Welcome to today's Little Drummer Girl podcast. We're in for a special treat because when I went to our local station, WMMF, they had their Caribbean Cruise Festival, and Bickley Rivera, she's the queen of Steelpan drum. She is here today in the house. Ms. Rivera began her recording career in 1985 and branched into the Latin and Caribbean genre, where she and her husband Nelson formed the group Cuba Libre in 1992. She was their keyboardist and lead singer. They originated and produced Caribbean Madness, the only Caribbean Riverboat Cruise series on the Connecticut River, which sold out for 5 seasons. She transitioned to Steelpan in 2005, training under many seasoned island artists, and she's opened for national groups such as America and performed with many international artists: Kitch, Paine, son of the legendary Lord Kitchner, jazz singer Joan Cartwright, Eugene Grey, touring guitarist for reggae-star Burning Spear, performed in Trinidad's International Panorama 2015 semi-final competition under the leadership of Andy Narell. So, without further ado, let's get Bickley on the phone. Hey, Bickley, how's it going?
Hey, Dawn Marie, it's so nice to talk to you.
Same here. Your show rocked last week. It was really amazing.
Thank you. I had such a great time. I mean, the vibe was so good from the moment we got there, which was a couple hours before. And I mean, it just, everybody was in a great mood, and it just felt so good to be there.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how many amazing local bands that we have out here that are just so amazing and talented. It was great to see them all lined up that night.
Yeah, they had a lot of bands. I don't think they had quite that many last year, but it's always good talent. And the Caribbean community comes together and they welcome new artists, and they always have fresh music out there, so it's great.
Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, how old were you when you first started playing an instrument?
I started playing piano when I was 5. It was just kind of one of those things where everybody was expected to, because my brother had already been playing piano. My mother was an organist, an opera singer, and there's also music on my father's side of the family as well. My mother's mother was an opera singer, had her own radio program. So it was just kind of, just like anybody who would learn a hobby, I guess. And I kind of didn't have a choice in the beginning. It was just like, okay, you're going to do this. So, you just do it and you don't think twice about it. And then when you get older, you get maybe into your teens, you're like, I want to be doing something a little bit different. I want to hang out with my friends. And then you have to make that call. And I was given that choice several times as to whether I wanted to give it up. And I luckily did not choose to give it up. And I continued to take lessons. I've been taking lessons at the Springfield Conservatory of Music up in Massachusetts. And studied classical piano. Also was in the school band, played clarinet, was in chorus at church and sang, and learned guitar. And that's actually where I started writing my first songs, was when I was about 13 or 14, with a guitar that my father brought me back from Japan. And I just loved the fact that he brought me this gift, from this foreign country. So I just right away sat down with the guitar and started writing songs. And then eventually I kind of, I don't know what it was, but I just sort of found composing music easier on the piano. Probably because I could do both a bass line and a chord line, and then sing along with that and have the whole thing in front of me. And so I started doing more with the piano at that point, as far as doing more contemporary music.
When you sit down and write a song, is there a certain way that you go about doing it? Like you have something in mind, and then, or is it just it just comes flowing out of you, and then you create it as you go?
It's it actually, it's so many ways. Sometimes I'll just be in the car, or I'll be talking to somebody, or, just random somewhere, and all of a sudden I hear this thing in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get this down. So now that we have cell phones that record, it's wonderful, because if I have a melody in my head, then I can sing it into the phone. And then when I get home, luckily, hopefully I'll remember what went along with that melody, but at least I have that. But it's so many different ways. It might come like that, or sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll just be in a mood to play something, so then I'll start playing a progression of chords on the piano, and then there's no melody. So sometimes I create the groove, and that's another thing. I might hear even a drum beat, a certain kind of, now with reggaeton being mixed into both pop music, reggae music, and Spanish music. It's prevalent in a lot of places. So you hear a reggaeton beat. It's like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. So then I put down the reggaeton beat with my recording software, and then I'll have to come up with something to go with that. So it's many different ways. But sometimes it comes real easy, and I get the song done within 2 days. And then other times it's couple months project, because I'll get so far and then I'll just put it aside and then not be inspired, and then come back. I'm like, oh yeah, this would be good here, and then I'll add on to it.
And that's awesome. So, you were originally a keyboard player and a lead singer for a really long time in your career, but then you made the transition to playing the Steelpan drums. Now, did you worry how that might affect or impact your career as an artist?
Well, I think we had always been playing some type of Caribbean vibe. The band that I was in up in Connecticut was like a Gloria Estefan style of music, I'd say, kind of pop, pop Latin flair. And when I moved to Florida, it just didn't, even though that type of music is acceptable, it just didn't feel right playing keyboards in this environment. So since we had already been playing that, an island-type music, I said, I always wanted to really learn how to play Steelpan. So I just decided to take an evening class in St. Petersburg, and I just went there, started playing with the other band members, and didn't know what I was doing at all. Just walked right in, just started looking at everybody else and watching what they were doing. And I learned on double tenors. So there's, different voicings of the Steelpan. You can have a very high-pitched one. You can have all the way down to the full steel drum, which would be a bass. And those come in many different ranges. So you could have one where you're playing 6 of them at a time, some that you're just playing 2 at a time. But so I started on the double tenor, and I liked it. And I thought, this is really cool. In fact, it probably couldn't get the smile off my face when I started playing it, because it was that really, it gave me that joy to play it. And so I just, I decided I wasn't going to play with the evening people anymore, and I would just kind of take it home and learn it on my own. So I bought a real cheap one and just kept noodling around on it, and then eventually my husband said, hey, there's a new bar opening up. Let me see if I can get you in there. And I said, what? I can't really play this thing. I'm not, compared to being a professional musician playing keyboards, So I said, well, what the heck, and I just did it. And everybody loved it. And I was like, well, okay, maybe I could do this. So then at that point, when I decided I was actually going to do it and get paid to do it, I decided that I really had to buckle down. So I started really seeking out island people and finding people in the community that played the instrument, so I could really see what they were doing, watch their technique, see the progressions that they would play, which, that in itself is what it's about, learning that instrument, is understanding the progressions and scales. So.
Yeah, I was always like enthralled with the Steelpan drum, but it just seems so complicated. It's just something that I'm thinking I could never learn that. It's just, the drummer is just it just seems so different. And so it's just that
It is.
as much as I want to try it, I'm like, okay, I'm petrified of it at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure to some people it is, and then to some people they say, oh, I think I could pick this up real easy. It seems simple. But I think you know, probably from watching other musicians and being a musician yourself, that if you make something look simple, then probably it's because you've been doing it so many years and you took a complicated thing and you were able to make it look that way.
So how long did you, from the time you started to take the lessons until you started performing live on stage, how long of a time was that?
Ooh, maybe not quite a year.
Wow.
You know, and here's the thing, and I wasn't originally a drummer, so that's my disadvantage, but although sometimes I would do jams with my previous bands on djembe and stuff like that, but not where I would consider myself technically great. But the advantage that I had was knowing piano and knowing theory of piano. So if you look at a Steelpan, it's laid out in the circle of fifths, so it's got a pattern to it. So if you understand music and theory and some other musical instrument, it really helps to know what you need to play. So if you're hearing a song and if you have perfect pitch or good ear to figure out the tune, then you've got a huge advantage.
That sounds great. I mean, I didn't even know that they had classes in St. Petersburg, so now you're making me want to go look that up.
I'll tell you more about that when we're done, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you teach music?
I do. I teach piano. I have private students in the Tampa area, and I go to their homes. And I also teach at a store up in Spring Hill. So I've got probably about 16 students, I think, something like that. So I'm pretty busy with that.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And what are the ages of your students?
I have some, right now, my youngest is probably about 9, but I have had students that have been 5 and 6, which that is a challenge in itself. Then I have the adult. I have some adults, and they're a challenge as well. They're in a different way. I mean, they understand English a lot better, so you can express what you want them to do, but people have already formed different habits, I guess, say, and certain roadblocks they put in front of themselves, you know, before they allow themselves to just be open, whereas the kids are like sponges. So, you know, there's pluses and minuses to both.
I hear you. Do you ever get nervous before you go out on stage?
Rarely now. I have to say, you know, when I was growing up and we had to do recitals every year, it was terrible. It was just, that's one of the reasons why at one point I wanted to give up doing classical piano, because you're being scrutinized so much and everything has to be to such a high level. Some of it is what I put on myself, and I'm sure other people have that perfection feeling, but once I went into pop music and music that I really love and speaks to me in my soul, that nervousness really went away, because I feel like we have this gift. So, you know, if you really want to express yourself, it's all about going out there and telling a story to your audience. And you know, like look at Caribbean Cruise, perfect example. Here I am, not part of the Caribbean community. I'm not a Caribbean person, but I walk on there. I'm so welcomed by everyone. And it's about me spreading the vibe of what is such a beautiful art form. And the Steelpan, to me, is the star of the show, more than I am. So I have to kind of give it that highlight.
I love that. Have you ever had any like embarrassing moments on stage? And if so, how did you get out of it?
Yes. I can tell you one. was when I lost my voice. I had been battling some really bad sinus issues, down here in Florida, how it goes. It was in the middle of March, and I don't know, the season had been really bad, and it was coming and going with me, and I got on and I was doing this show, and it was probably about halfway through the show that all of a sudden I lost it, and I panicked in my head, and luckily I have the instrument, so I have to always keep that in mind. I learned a lesson that if I don't have my voice, then I've got my instrument, my Steelpan. So that's a blessing for me that I can do both. And the voice is one of those things where you just have to really treat it very carefully. You have to do a lot of things to make sure that you keep it in shape. And some people can go on and it doesn't matter. They could do whatever they want, drink, smoke, whatever, and they can just walk on and do it. But for the most part, I try to be careful with the voice. So that's just one thing over time that was an embarrassment that I had to kind of figure out how to deal with.
Wow, that's got to be, yeah. I would think that's a really tough thing. But like you said, you have the music there, so thankfully for the drums to keep you afloat. You have this quote that I love that you say, we are fortunate to be performers because we always perpetuate energy through our music and words, so it's important to remember that at every performance. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I feel like music is unique. So anything in the arts are unique in that you've got this platform. People look up to you. They think what you're doing is great. Once you get over if there is nervousness, and you get into the fact that you have to spread this message. And for me, I like to spread a message of positivity. So I came out with an album recently called Positive Vibes, and that is really my message that I like to live by. And it's about the fact that we all go through rough times and could be going through rough times even during the performance. There might be a terrible thing going on in my personal life, but to go beyond that and use this music as a vehicle to communicate to people and give them hope. And I've had many times that people have come up to me and said, I can't tell you how thankful I am that I got to hear you today, and your music really pulled me out of a dark place. Either they had just lost somebody in their family, or there was something that they were trying to overcome and they were able to do it just because of the music. And I'm sometimes shocked because you kind of forget that it is that powerful. So that's really what I meant by the fact that we have this great opportunity to change the world with music.
I love that. Speaking of the album, is it out somewhere where people can go, check it out and pick up a copy? Online?
Yeah, they can come to a performance. That would be really great to see people at performances, and I can sell them the CD right there and sign it. Or if they want to go online, they can go to cdbaby.com, and I've got several albums out, so just do a little search. I have an album called Chillin' After 5, which is a chill album. It's very, very laid back and kind of loungy. It's got a Miami sound to it. I had a producer from Miami that I worked with on that, so it's got a really cool edge to it. My second album was Breaking the Mold, which had some A-lister players on there. Spyro Gyra is playing on there. Tom Schumann, the keyboard player. Bonnie B, you got to check him out. He's a phenomenal drummer. And he's performing on there as well. Andy Narell, who's a famous Steelpan player. And anyway, that is Breaking the Mold. That is a smooth jazz album, and that did really well in the smooth jazz field. And then now my Positive Vibe, which has a lot of guest artists that I know personally through the smooth jazz field and the Caribbean field. So that's a winner. It's been playing on all the radio stations across the country in Hawaii, Europe, and all that. So go to cdbaby.com and iTunes, Amazon. It plays on Pandora, iHeart. It's on television as well, on Music Choice. So,
beautiful. I will make sure I put the links to that in the show notes as well, so that they can just click on that. You in 2015, you won this prestigious award as the CHP Best World Island Reggae Music Award. How did that make you feel?
I was so honored to receive that award, and actually I think I won a second one, and I don't have it. It was the soul. They have so many categories, but yeah, it was such an honor because it's indie artists, and believe it or not, I mean, indie artists just don't get the voice,
the recognition.
Yeah, the recognition, the accolades, because there are some really awesome indie artists out there, and some have chosen to be indie artists because they don't want to have things dictated to them and have to be under the power of a record company. There's others that just haven't gotten a record contract that feel like, well, okay, I'm just going to say indie and see what happens. And quite honestly, I mean, I've been up against both, and I think indie is kind of the way to be these days. But yeah, there's some great indie artists that were part of that GHP radio station that they would host every week. And yeah, they told me that I was nominated in a couple categories, and so I attended it virtually online and won 2 awards from there. So yeah,
congratulations!
Totally pleased.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Do you do any special marketing for your band? I mean, do you use social media, or are there some special ways that you market yourself?
Yeah, I have a couple different ways. I have my own website, BickleyRivera.com, and I also put things on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. It used to be MySpace. That was eons ago. I am on Instagram, but that's just incidentally. I keep most of the Twitter as well, but I keep most of the social media about the music, except for my Instagram that I put very personal stuff on. So I like to change it up there because I figure, there's sometimes people want to know what kind of person you are. What did you do today, rather than just what album's coming out. They can find that anytime on my website. So I do that, and then I do have promoters that I've worked with if I'm doing an album, or if there's a press release that's going to come out, then I work with them. But for my albums, for instance, my Blue Jack one that was released in 2015, I had a promoter out on the West Coast. And then this last album, Positive Vibes, I had a jam band promoter, did a lot of indie artist type promotion, and I'm kind of trying to break into more of the contemporary reggae, so I'm probably going to be getting a promoter for that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love that. That's all great information. So tell me, Bickley, are you ready for the 11-stroke roll rapid fire interview?
Am I ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell me, what is your favorite Steelpan drum company?
Well, there's quite a few out there. There was a Steelpan builder in the islands named Guppy, and everybody was dying to get a pan made from Guppy, and they would have to wait at least 6 to 8 months to get one. I think some people even waited a year, but he just passed away. So missed that opportunity. Thinking about it, I have mine built by Tom Reynolds, and he's actually in the Sanford, Florida area from St. Croix. He's an island guy, and he's had an illustrious music career, touring for many years as well. There's some really good pan players in the U.S., but of course Trinidad is where the pan was born, and I went there in 2015 to perform with the band called Birdsong. There's a competition that goes on every year that brings in people from all over the world, and so it's in a 120-piece steel band. So if you want to get a pan, that's really the place to get it, is Trinidad.
Ooh. And they have a great carnival there. I remember meeting a guy there.
Oh, so. Yeah.
I want to go down there to check that out.
What's nice is they televise, and they also put on the radio, you can get it, I think, on YouTube or internet stations, when they're doing their competitions. So you can actually hear each band that gets up to perform live.
Oh, wow.
And so they do that live streaming, and that's really exciting because you hear what real steel bands are all about. It's a lot different than just going to hear a steel pan performer solo.
I gotta check that out.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your favorite article of clothing?
Favorite article of clothing? I would say, you got me stumped on that one. I mean, I like everything really, but I'm kind of, as you saw the other night, I'm a little bit 60s kind of girl. So
I love your style, actually.
I like my dreads. I like my, my dreads. I like my, anything that projects peace and love and all that stuff. So anything, any kind of jewelry that has that, I'm all for it.
Cool. What would you say was your favorite show or tour?
I've had a couple. We've gone from Florida up the East Coast several years in the past. The last one was 2015, and I think maybe that might have been the best one because we just had so many really interesting shows, and every time you go on a tour and you meet people from different states and you're performing for them, it's just so much fun because you're now the foreigner and you're coming into their territory and you get to meet them. So it's a lot different than when you're playing on your own turf.
Well, that's a very cool point. Perspective there. I like that. What would you say is your favorite food?
Food? I got several. Probably my number one is Indian food. I love the use of the spices that the Indians employ. And I love sushi. That might be my second. I love French food. I do eat really healthy because I'm into a good exercise program with some good clean eating. So other than that, I'd say Indian's number one.
Cool. What is one thing that you couldn't live without if you were stranded on a deserted island?
Oh, boy. Food. I think food.
Okay, I love that. Yep, that's really up there.
Just a little elaboration on that. When you think about it, if you're stranded on an island, you got to get resourceful. So if you want, you could probably make an instrument out of anything that's growing or that you can find on an island. So your instrument, you could be sitting there playing an instrument for days or weeks or however long it takes to be found. So I'd say food first.
What would you say is your favorite genre of music to listen to when you're not working?
There are two. One is classical music, just because it gets me to just chill. And I would say contemporary reggae, only from the aspect of I get a lot of ideas, and I like to hear how the newest artists are blending some of the contemporary pop with the island reggae. And so you've got this crossover between roots and pop music that's going on, and even the drum beats are different. And I like to just kind of, when I'm driving along, I'll throw that on and just kind of veg with that. But if I'm tense, I'd right away put on classical music.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that one. I remember as a teenager, I was listening to it, and my mother would pass by, and she's like, "Are you listening to that?"
Now, if I was a teenager, I probably wasn't listening to that. I mean, my favorite artist of all time was Elton John. John, Linda Ronstadt, all that. So I'd probably be listening to that. But now, later in life, yeah.
What would you say is your favorite pastime?
I'd say going out on a bike ride or a hike in the woods.
Car or motorcycle?
Car.
Favorite travel spot?
Europe.
Any particular place?
There's a couple of places that I really like. I mean, I've been to England many times, and I really like Belgium. There's something about Belgium that just, I felt like it was very a melting pot, and it had so many different cultures just in one spot.
I like that. I have never been there, but I can imagine. I love Europe. It's amazing. Your biggest pet peeve?
When people judge without having an open mind and kind of understanding where people might be coming from. I think everybody's got a different story to tell, and so there might be a different perspective, but I think some people might jump to conclusions, and that's something that bothers me.
That's a good point. And what would you say, who is your favorite person to hang out with?
My husband.
How long have you guys been married?
24 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that because, today marriages don't really last that long, so when I hear something that's really, grounded, it's so nice to hear it.
Yeah, well, we do a lot together. I mean, we do a lot of things like the hiking and the biking, and he's just always up for an adventure, so that's what really breaks me away from the music, because sometimes I get a little bit too absorbed in it, and you can kind of get just isolated that way. So it's good, when you have a partner that wants to be doing things on the outside world more, and so it's a good balance.
Nice. Bickley, it looks like we're just about out of time, and I just want to, again, thank you for being here with us today, because it really means so much to me, because you took the time out, and I know how busy your schedule is. How can our listeners stay in touch with you if they want to learn more? You have the website, but what is your Instagram under?
I believe they can find me under Bickley Rivera, and that's BICKLEYRIVERA. And same thing with Facebook. I mean, Facebook, people tend to kind of talk a little bit more, so not that I'm going to, that I have that much time to do that, but it's cool because, then I can see what's going on with shows that are coming up, and I'm right there posting, this weekend we're doing this or that. So Facebook is always good, too. Under the same name, I have both a band page and a friend page.
Perfect.
So, and I want to thank you as well because, when you pulled me aside at the show and told me what you were doing, I was just thrilled to even be part of it.
Oh, I thank you.
Glad to see. And I checked out your site, and I see you've got quite a few interviews with some really, really cool artists.
Yes, they've been amazing. And I used to work in the music business many, many years ago, and so I met some really great people along the way. And when I told some of them that I was doing the show, they were really, happy to be on it. And I just was very grateful. I'm still really grateful that when somebody says yes to do a show. And thank you, because without you guys, I wouldn't have a show.
Right, I know. Well, it's always people love to be able to spread the love, right?
Absolutely. And I'm going to make sure that I add the links to all of your social media sites and the albums on the show notes so that everybody can get in touch with that.
Yama.
And please let me know if there's anything that I can do on my end. If you ever need help with anything, just, give me a shout.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. And I want to thank you guys listening out there because, again, I wouldn't have the show if it weren't for you. And don't forget to subscribe. We're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and Google Play. And if you like this episode, please share the love, man, okay? And remember to also subscribe on the YouTube channel at The Little Drummer Girl with Dawn Marie Mutel and check out the footage from different shows and different things that I've seen along the way. And until the next time, don't forget, it's never too late to live the life of your dreams and leave it trailblazing behind you. So rock on and rock out, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Namaste.